This video is sponsored by Factor 75. Get fresh, ready-made meals delivered to your doorstep when you sign up with Factor. Their menus are updated weekly. They have seafood, veggie, and keto options if that's what you're looking for. Check my link in the description below and use code FACTORSE10507 for 60% off your first box. All right, everybody. So, Matt Walsh has some questions for atheists, or one question for atheists. I wish we could have gotten a whole, 10 questions for atheists from Matt Walsh, because it's so hard to find question for atheist videos these days. They're certainly not as common as they once were. But we'll get into that question right after we get into the fan art section. This one is from a Nubian. Said a birthday crown for Raz. The next one we have is from Alios Trancy. Just a simple sketch I made. Hope you like it. Sorry if it's not that amazing. I didn't have the time to make a complete thing, unfortunately. And then the last one is from Yesterday's Memory, a thing I made when I was sick. Haven't done anything in a while, so it was nice to try again. It's a Suris with some very angry, intrusive thoughts. Kind of set up like a little video game adventure, not meant to be an I love coin fan art a lot. It's just fun to see Suris rage about it. Netcoin found. Destroy it. I like that. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it in the fan art section of the Discord. With that all said, let's go ahead and get into the video from Matt.
Now, when the Supreme Court made the decision about Roe v. Wade, we were told that by the left, including many of them secular atheists, doesn't matter what the Supreme Court says, women have the right to abortion. Well, what do you mean right? What are you appealing to exactly?
What are we appealing to for that? For human rights? Matt Walsh, do you think that the only construct for people having rights is God? There are other constructs that humans can appeal to for having human rights than just God. When we talk about, objective standards for morality, an objective standard for morality is literally just having an object to point to. That's all that means. Likewise, when it comes to human rights, a right can just be something that we've all agreed on. We've agreed as a group of human beings that we have a right to our own bodies. We have a right to bodily autonomy. That is what grants us those rights. Matt, I don't think you understand that rights, like money, are made the fuck up. We made up gender. We made up money. We made up time and the way we measure it. We made up all of these things. And yes, Matt, we made up human rights. But, like with gender, like with time, like with money, human rights, despite being made the fuck up, are very, very, very useful. You know what else is useful? Stopping the smiling spider. But apparently, the smiling spider has decided to drop 50,001 channel points to make me say, oh, whoa. Because you need help desperately. It's almost as if social constructs underpin society or something. Remixes says, Jesus Christ, no, don't need you here too. Go away, Rime. I'm kidding, don't go away. I'm kidding. But human rights, they are social constructs like many other things, Matt. We can appeal to that.
When you talk about this mystical right that exists, you're not appealing to God. What are you appealing to? If you
The Smiling Spider, thank you for giving out 5 tier 1 subs. Jeebus.
can only appeal to man, if you can only appeal to the government, then it's up to them what the rights are. And it doesn't make any sense. If the government says you have a right to this, it doesn't make any sense to say, no, that's not true. What do you mean it's not true?
So here's the thing. We're not saying that the government chooses what rights are. The government is made up of regular-ass people like you and me. We, as a society, we determine what rights are and why they are that way. The reason that we talk about women having a right to an abortion is because we are talking about people having a right to their own body. I'm sure Matt Walsh has listened to the violinist argument 1,000 times, right? Anybody who's listened to the violinist argument or read the violinist argument, they already have a pretty basic understanding of what we're talking about when we're talking about bodily autonomy. The violinist argument, in short, is you and a famous violinist are both in a car, and that car gets in a wreck. The wreck is neither of y'all's fault, but you get into that wreck. You wake up tied to a hospital bed alongside the violinist, and you are told that you are going to be used to keep the violinist alive. He needs a very specific procedure that involves your body being used to keep him alive for the next 9 months. You will be fed, you'll be clothed, you'll be taken care of, you will receive massive benefit for this, but you ask yourself, why should I have to give my body to the violinist for their recovery? Now, they're a world-famous violinist. They are infinitely more important than you. You are a nobody. You're a Joe Schmo. In this scenario, your depression was right. You are nothing to this violinist. Their importance to society far outweighs yours, and yet, do you have the right to argue that the violinist doesn't have a right to your body? If your argument is that he does have a right to your body, you have to have some grounds as to why. Is it because he is more important to society than you are? Is it because he needs a thing and you have the ability to provide it? Like, on what grounds does this person have a right to your body? Now, when we change some of the gears and cogs in this clockwork machine, we realize that the violinist is just a stand-in for a baby. At what point does the baby gain the right to your body? Or do you have a right to your body? And despite the fact that the baby needs your body to survive, much like the violinist needs your body to survive, despite the fact that they need your body to survive, do you have a right to say no? Now, we're not asking, is it moral, is it ethical, is it what have you? I'm asking, do you, as an individual, have the right to that? And most people would argue, yes, you have a right to say no to the violinist. You have a right to have access to your body in its full capacity for the next 9 months. And what happens to the violinist is the violinist's problem. The fact that he can't survive outside of your help, that is awful, but it is unfortunately the circumstances that he has been landed in. The same thing would be said about the baby. The baby can't survive outside of your womb. That is an unfortunate circumstance that baby has landed in. But the right to your body has to be able to be maintained. Now, I know that Matt's heard this argument. He's heard the violinist argument, and I'm not saying it in the perfect way that I possibly could, and there's certainly ways you can modify the violinist argument to make it stronger. However, the issue is that Matt has heard this argument 1,000 times, and he either does not care or he's paid not to care. Whenever we ask ourselves, why is Matt Walsh being so deliberately obtuse, all we ever have to figure is, oh, right, that's what he's paid to do. Matt Walsh is paid to be this obtuse. He is paid to misunderstand these basic concepts this much. And of course, the fact that he's doing through the lens of Christian nationalism right now is just par for the course for Matt.
According to you, a right by definition is simply whatever the government says. This is a real problem that I don't think
anybody says a right is whatever the government says. I don't know anybody who's ever used that argument. In fact, actually, let's just do a quick Google. Let's just do a quick Google for giggles, for fun. Human right. So, what defines a human right? Human rights are rights that are inherent to all beings regardless of race, sex, nationality, ethnicity, language, religion, or any other status. Human rights include the right to life, liberty, freedom, freedom from slavery and torture, freedom of opinion and expression, and the right to work and education. The human rights are literally things we made up then, and that's fine. when I go into a Walmart and I go to buy myself a thing of sugar-free Nutella to spread over my toast, and the cashier, I mean, when there are cashiers there, mind you, so there's usually not anymore, but the cashier says that'll be $7, I don't get to go, by what mechanism did you determine the value of these dollars? I say that these dollars are worth more than what you think. It should only cost me $3. These dollars are infinitely more valuable than you know. No, I don't do that. And I don't have to do that. Despite the fact that money is as much a social construct as a human right, we still operate with it as if it has some type of tangible value we can measure, as opposed to the value being, we made it the fuck up. Do these things break down into absurdity when you overanalyze them? Absolutely. All social constructs do. They all break down into some measure of absurdity when you overanalyze them. The human experience is living within the confines of that absurdity and making sense of it somehow. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't have to make sense of why a dollar is valued the way it is in any real way. I merely have to earn the dollar and then use the dollar in order to function. I don't need more than that in order to function. Likewise, Matt, somebody doesn't have to ask a billion questions about what is a woman to have the experience of being a woman. And people don't have to ask themselves where human rights come from, much like asking your parents where babies came from for the umpteenth time, for you to realize that you don't need that information. Because the information is basically, we agreed on that. We, as a society, agreed on that at some point. Arbitrary? Sure, why not? Agamotto says, I have two problems with your story, sugar-free and Nutella. I mean, I have sugar-free Nutella, and it did cost me $7.49. I'm kidding, it actually costed me about $10. But anyways.
Anyone on the left has even attempted, very few people on the left have even attempted to confront or deal with or wrestle with. And it just makes everything they say about human rights totally meaningless. You know,
so you mean that everything that I just did in this video, everything I just did in this video, that I just did all of that. Now, there are some nations that say that human rights come from God. And realistically, can we talk about that? The idea that rights come from God is a strange concept, but I understand why it is done. If you have human rights coming from God, then you are trying to set them categorically away from where the government can touch them. If a human right is something granted by a deity, then a government doesn't have any authority there, technically speaking. I can understand that perspective and how important it could be. I disagree with it, but still. Agamotto says, and you call me a degenerate? I have a somewhat sugar-free diet. It needs to be more sugar-free, but a somewhat sugar-free diet. And anonymous gifters dropped 5 tier 1 subs. Holy shit, thank you. But since I have a somewhat sugar-free diet, of course the Nutella that I go for is sugar-free. Oh, that is an interesting, interesting statement. Liberal father. The Yukio Abridged fan in me wants to say the words you just said. But instead, I think I'll just time you out because of the slur you used. Eat shit. Anyways. So, I think we did the thing Matt said that no liberal does, apparently. We confronted the idea of human rights as not granted by a deity. Oh no, that was so difficult. Anywho, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you've got a different idea than I do where human rights come from, then by all means, maybe you think they come from your pinky toe. That's fine. As always, everybody, if you enjoyed the content, hit the like button and subscribe, and, you know, insert end of video tagline here.